Hey everybody, welcome to Coding Beta. So today I'm going to show you how to do a single database query, yet populate multiple eloquent models and relationships from that single query. So basically I was looking at Reddit the other day and I saw this question about how to retrieve relationship data using the Laravel query builder. And essentially, what this person was trying to do is they had some sort of complex query that they were doing where they were joining in multiple tables, doing whatever crazy filters and things they needed to do. And the data they were pulling back was for both users and the associated company for that user. And what they were wanting to do is be able to populate that eloquent user model, but also populate the company model that was related to it so they could do that one single query and get everything back. So I kind of took a crack at how I might try and do something like that. There's no built-in way that I know of, but there's a way to get this to work. So what I have set up here is on the users table, I've just added this company ID, and then I've created this companies table where I just have some default data there. And I'll show you the models. I did go ahead and set up the relationships. So I have the user belongs to a single company. And if we look at the company, it can have many users. So with this setup, if we look at the route here, all I'm doing is I'm saying, give me all of the users, and because I know I want that company data, I'm using that with function to say grab the company data as well, so it'll prefetch all of that for me. And this is kind of the standard way that you would go about doing this. In the template, I'm simply looping over all of the users, printing out name, email, and then here I'm reaching into that relationship to that company object and getting the name and address of the company as well. So if we take a look at what that looks like. Here we're pulling out the, again, user email and then that company information, and everything's working there. But of course, if you look down here at the debug bar, you'll see that our queries, we do have the two queries running where first we're getting the user information, and after that we do a second query for the company information for any users we've returned to be able to populate everything correctly. So in this case, the user had some crazy query going on and they wanted to try and get it all back in one. So this is what I came up with to make that work. We're gonna get rid of this, and instead we're gonna do kind of our manual query here. In this case, I don't have any kind of crazy logic to set up, but we're just gonna join to the companies table. So let's see, we got the users, company ID is going to equal the companies.id. So let's just do that simple join, and then you could imagine that I've got all kinds of joins and filters and whatever else I had going on. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to decide what data am I going to pull back from this query. In this case, we want the users as our main table, so we're going to get everything from that users table. But then let's also pull out the, we're going to get the ID, the name, and the address from the companies table. So let me go ahead and set this up here. So we're going to do the companies.id, name, and address. And what we need to do here is we need to give it a name. So in this case, we're going to say company underscore ID, name, and address. Now, the reason we need to do that is if we just said users.star and companies.id, the column name would be named ID, so the company ID would override the user's ID. So we need to kind of create this prefix for this extra company data. But if we do that, and then we go ahead and run our get, then that's going to return all of the data we need. But we're not going to have that company relationship populated. Instead, we're just going to have the user objects, and we're going to have this extra data kind of tacked onto the users, but it's not really going to be set up correctly for how Laravel is expecting it, how you would usually interact with those relationships. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop over each of these users and see if we can fix that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a values array. This is going to be a holder for this company data. So now what we want to do is we need to go and grab all of the company data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get attributes from that model, and we will get those as a key value pair. And as we're looping over these, because we've prefixed the name of all the company data, what we can do is we can simply say, let's look at the key itself, and does the key start with company underscore? If it does, and so we're going to say if that is equal to 0, then we know that it starts with company underscore. So if we do that, we want it. So we're going to go ahead and knock off that company prefix because we don't need that anymore. So company underscore is 8 characters long. We want everything after that in our new values array. So at the end of all this, we should end up with values having the ID, name, and address for that company. I'm going to go ahead and also unset from the user whatever that key was named because we don't need it there anymore. So now we've got this array of the company values, and now we need to create that company object. So we're going to say company equals new company, and then we're going to populate that by doing new from builder and pass in the values. So this new from builder function is basically how Eloquent normally populates the models that it gets from the query builder. And what that does is that ignores any of our fillable settings that we may have on that model, and it's always going to work. It's always going to populate that data. So now we've got the company object, and we need to call set relation on the user. And what we're doing here is we're saying for this user, I'm manually defining that we want the company relationship to be set to point to this object that we've just created. So at that point, we should have everything working. So let me go back to our web browser here, and if I reload the page, again, we're getting the name, email, and we're getting this company information. We haven't had to change any of our Blade code. We're still reaching into that relationship the same way that we did before. But now when you look at this queries, we only have the one query. So we were effectively able to populate everything we need. Again, if we look at this Blade, we are successfully starting with the user, linking up to the company, and pulling out that information, and everything's just working fine off of that one query. So again, you do need to specify exactly what extra data beyond the users you're pulling back, and you need to prefix it and kind of do that extra work to be able to separate everything out. But I do think that that kind of achieves everything that this user was working for. So hopefully that helps.